So pretty much everyone knows the S&P 500, and probably one of the most popular, if not the most popular ETF that tracks the S&P 500 is actually VOO. It's the Vanguard 500 Index Fund ETF, and we're going to actually compare this today. It's actually a really interesting one. I'm kind of excited to do this video because this is an ETF that's very similar in a lot of ways, except it's not. Or maybe it really is. I mean, a lot of things are probably overlapping in this fund. However, the question is, because this actually tracks just like 250 more stocks than the S&P 500 ETF VOO, is it actually better? So this is actually SCHX, and this is the Schwab US Large Cap ETF. All right, let's start comparing these ETFs. Okay, so I'm on the Charles Schwab ETF comparison tool right now. As is in many videos inside my channel, we have VOO on the left, we have SCHX on the right. We have the fund names here, which I just talked about now. Very similar because they have the same expense ratio, 0.03%. Crazy, super cheap funds. You can almost not get cheaper than that. Also, I know, kind of interesting, the inception date is not too far off for these two either. So, you know, they're kind of like created around the same time within less than a year of each other. For you dividend investors out there, so we can take a look at the distribution yield here, and 1.55% for both of these ETFs. So, okay, so far we have the same expense ratio. We got the same distribution yield. They both pay quarterly. Why are these so similar? Because one of these funds has 250 more stocks inside of it. Now, VOO, it tracks the S&P 500, and guess how many stocks are inside an ETF that tracks the S&P 500? Well, if you guess 500 right, you are wrong. Sorry, that was a little bit aggressive. Sorry about that. It's got 506 holdings in it. I don't know why. There's always more holdings than there's supposed to be, and it's usually like, you know, because they have to liquidate funds and stuff, they keep some money in a little bit in cash. So probably that's the reason. I'm going to take a very, very strong guess at that one. So anyway, 506 stocks. And guess how many SCHX has? Well, 756. Now, SCHX, it's supposed to have 750 stocks. Okay, so by the way, also it tracks the Dow Jones total stock market large cap. So that's the underlying index that it tracks. So really what the index SCHX tracks does is it basically says, okay, let's go ahead and find the top 750 largest stocks instead of the top 500. So, okay, you got an extra 250 stocks. Well, how big of a difference does that make the portfolios? Good question. Let's take a look at the top 10 holdings. So here we have VOO on the left side, SCHX on the right. So both of them, of course, have Apple. These are market cap weighted ETFs. So the largest companies have the most weighting. Now, the reason why there's less money inside SCHX is because it's market cap weighted and SCHX has more stocks inside of it. So because there's more stocks, those extra few stocks, they're giving a little bit more to those stocks and a little bit less to the larger stocks because there's just more stocks. So honestly, as you can see, this thing, they're pretty much the same ETFs. I mean, in the top 10 holdings, which is 25%, of SCHX and 27% of VOO, here's where it gets kind of interesting, okay? So, of course, VOO, the fund overlap inside VOO is 98.8%. So because SCHX has all the same stocks pretty much as VOO, you're going to get the top 500 of the same stocks, but then you're going to get the other stocks as well, which is going to be 66.2%. So in other words, VOO has 66% of the stocks that SCHX has. So you would think that they're very, very, very different because, okay, SCHX has a lot different portfolio, right? There's an extra 250 stocks in there. Well, guess what? You're wrong. I'm sorry, I'm being too aggressive today. You're wrong if you're thinking that, which I actually at first was thinking that, and I was like, wait a sec, these are market cap weighting funds. So of course this makes sense. Fund overlap by weight. Because the larger companies have larger weights, then you have to say, okay, that basically makes, like, for example, Apple has such a large portion of both of these than Microsoft and Google, right? Well, because those big stocks have such large weightings and the smaller stocks in SCHX are so small, they kind of like don't make up much of the ETF. It ends up being a 92% overlap. So essentially, these things are pretty much the same. If you take a look at how much more is in each sector, so communication services, for example, there's only a 0.4% difference. And so like there's there's less than a percent difference in the sectors of each of these ETFs. So honestly, they're very close ETFs. I mean, you would probably say they're almost the same ETF. So maybe if you're really like getting into the nitty gritty and you're splitting hairs here, you might want to say, okay, well, this 8% that's not overlapping here, well, those are going to be mid-cap companies probably, right? Because S&P 500 is going to have the top 500 companies, then those other 250, they're mid-cap, mid-sized companies, or they might even still be considered large cap companies actually. So you're just going to get a little bit of a smaller addition and only 8% addition of those stocks. So here's the question, and I think it's a good question. Does this actually affect the returns? That 8% difference, is it significant? Is it material? What's the difference? So we're going to compare them. Portfolio 1 here is the S&P 500 ETF VOO. Portfolio 2 is going to be SCHX. And what we're doing is we're saying, okay, well, if we look back, we're going back until the inception of these funds. So this is, or at least, the youngest fund's inception, which is December 31 of 2010 is what we're looking at here. And if you invested $100,000 into each of these ETFs, so what does that grow to? Okay, so the first one, VOO, it grows to 393,771. It grows to more money. So VOO does better than SCHX. The CAGR is 12, or the compound annual growth rate, if you don't know what that is. So how much this made every single year on average. So 12.47% and 12.33%. So a little bit of a difference. And interestingly, there's a little bit more risk inside inside SCHX. So SCHX, a little bit more risk. I mean, honestly, it's splitting hairs. It's almost nothing. It's almost zero. It's 0.15% difference, but a little bit difference. So maybe we could just say it, and then we have this little bit, a bit more money, not a lot more money, but a little bit more money that you're getting in the S&P 500 ETF VOO. I should tell you that the returns I just looked at were reinvesting dividends, so it wasn't taking money out of the portfolio. But however, if we take a look at the income coming off of these ETFs, we can see VOO is actually in blue and SCHX is in red. So SCHX had a little bit less income in 2011. They pretty much had the same amount of income that came off of it in 2012. SCHX had a little bit less, SCHX less. So it seems like SCHX is actually generally giving a little bit less income most years. 2018 was a little bit better, and that's interesting because 2018 was kind of a recessionary year. So maybe, I don't know, maybe SCHX can be a little bit more versatile in terms of income in recessionary years. I have no idea if that's the case. I'm looking at it here, and it maybe correlation's not necessarily causation, as they say, but maybe. However, now I'm looking at this, so apparently there's more income paid on VOO than SCHX right now, and you know what? It's a terrible recessionary year. So, okay, I take it back. Whatever I just said, don't listen to that. Anyway, what do I think about these ETFs? My thought is, if you have SCHX, if you're thinking about, okay, I own this ETF, should I have this? Why don't I just have VOO? Why don't I have an S&P 500 ETF instead of SCHX? My thought is that there's no reason not to have SCHX. Okay. There was like a very, very small difference in the return over a few years, but honestly, it's a very small amount. They have almost the same holdings, and it is possible that SCHX does outperform VOO at some point. If those 250 smaller companies tend to, on average, do better than the larger companies, top 500 companies, SCHX is going to actually do better. Will that happen? I don't know. I can see it happening, but I don't know. I have no idea if it's going to happen. But if you want to take a little bit of a bet towards just having those extra 250 companies have an extra little bit of money in those companies, well, SCHX could be a good ETF to go with. So that's all I have for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you think. I mean, we're splitting hairs here. Is there a material difference between these two? Do you really think one's better than the other? Do you care? Let me know. And also, as you're writing that in there, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit the like button, please. And watch another one of my videos coming up on the end screen right now.